leader of the opposition, and on my right here is our Secretary General, Comrade David Lewis Wongoya, who has today been named Otim, like yourself. So I'm very glad to be here and to be able to share thoughts with the people of Lango and by large the people of Northern Uganda. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome in the studio, and thank you. My name is Otim, the Secretary General. We are happy to have you as well beside the President. Now, Mr. President, you can let us know the National Unity Platform mobilization drive that brings you to Northern Uganda.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a mobilization drive, but we're focusing mainly on resilience. Now you'll wonder why resilience? What are we pushing back against? With your permission, Brother Otim, I want to take us back a little bit. You see, when you're approaching a problem or when you're trying to find a solution, it's important to know the genesis of the problem, going back to history and how we got here, how we got so confused as a country, how we ended up so divided and so oppressed. You realize that we, the oppressed people, whether they're in Lango, in Acholi, in Busoga, in Uganda, in Teso, West Nile, or wherever, you'll find that we've been conditioned to fight among ourselves and ignore our oppressor. We are all victims of circumstances that are created against us. I was sharing with the brothers and sisters in Gulu earlier today, and I told them that we are victims of oppression, victims of violence, and also victims of lies. These are two generations that have been deceived. The generation of our parents, our fathers and mothers, and we, the generation that came after. Now we are the fathers, we are mothers, and some of us have already started being grandparents. I really try as much as possible not to talk about the problem or the personification of the problem, which is General Yoweri Museveni and his dictatorial government. However, because we must face it head on, I painstakingly mention it that this is a person that has confused the country since the days of Idi Amin. We've talked about the root cause of the problem, the abductions, and facts keep coming up pointing to the same person. But now that I'm in Lango, I want us to go back a little bit and look in the 1980s. I mentioned to the people of Gulu, which I want to also substantiate here on radio, that the General Kainda Otafire in 2004, when they were burying Adonia Tiberondwa, an ardent UPC supporter, Otafire mentioned that actually Museveni and his people in the 80s, when they are fighting the government of Dr. Milton Obote, they would dress in UPC uniform, go to villages in Buganda and massacre people in order to create hate for the UPC government, which succeeded. Not only hate for the government, but also for the ethnicity. These are things that divided us because this was a game of General Yoweri Museveni, and it succeeded. And indeed, after 1986, I was speaking a few years ago, maybe 2-3, to an elder in Northern Uganda, who indeed gave me information that after Museveni took power and he worked with Kaira, who he later, his government murdered, the Baganda soldiers who were Kaira soldiers were deployed in Northern Uganda to cause havoc. Now that was deliberate because eventually this is the hate and anger that many of us inherited. But there was somebody that planned it. Well, long story short, here we are in a nation that has been affected so much. The people of Northern Uganda have seen a brilliant genocide, and I want to encourage all the people of Northern Uganda to go watch that documentary where people like Norbert Mao and others spoke the truth. Unfortunately, later on, it was put on our generation. Now we are here, hateful of each other, distrustful of each other, and yet our oppressor is Museveni, who has gotten us here. So I want the people of Uganda to know they're not each other's enemy, but the enemy is one who has kept us in this situation, a person that has destroyed our identities from the north to the south, from the west to the east. Therefore, it's important to come together, face our problems, and discuss solutions moving forward. Having said that, we are on this mobilization drive to empower the people of Uganda and show them that they have the power to turn all this narrative around, to re-identify ourselves as a generation, to march forward, to overcome the oppression, to overcome the corruption, to overcome the backwardness, and indeed to forge a path for a new Uganda. And that is the message that we keep moving forward. And in the coming minutes, I'll share our aspirations and our dream and paint a picture for a new Uganda that the National Unity Platform hopes to usher in. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. With radio, and Jack Unimano, Yam maybe the two mother, well, we're gonna tell you with radio, Chalo, love Uganda tia, and Unimano, Yamapola, but team ratio, Memio, Kadum, one call you better go polo, had two Malay Uganda cannon, and Mio, Jamie better go dio what Falconi. Locha metieni odio tu malame Uganda mebedo peho kini chachan amemano mi wando yawo no mala ka tango ko ni o mi jome tu malame Uganda bedo jame obedo chala dogi be tio tam chala dogi me jamo bedo ko bigi goba pikala laj goba me no tia do ado ko bra ngi mano ngata me mi opeki du bedo time bedo ngata me pe mi ni lo hi come pigina be pegere ka peho do ti ko mi ni ikemere ke ngoa metia ke lo pehe komino mewe himo agam me peha benotio ko ni ngato ke lo pehe bishop president yuel Museveni meti kame chawani en ko ni o ubero ngato me ubero mi opek be be dum tutwa dem ya poro kan ko ni ma tun chel mi ya bon we pierre boru ye dan mo ni jeno o tafire o bi worgi me yiko ngato mo ni adona tibahura ameda ubero ate ha me UPC no adi tutwa ero kuno ente ko ni mano giro biro ro ba jame UPC counted donyo gini kana UPC tiye counted TUTG me we holo to jongini gino be UPC er no gino binu me gam lodge me hokam gini dang lodge dante ko ni magnu subiru tiye ya kile jama pol ameno be mi ya pori e kam te ko ni jome tu mala me Uganda oneni wangi kita menne kalanyo be tiye kere en ko ni tiye mena be dum yobo ti kara chele documentary ame jero darbara no bad maugi binu logi ame ko ba teteri me ngamo ti mere kum chan kene halan amoti mere ko nyale me tumala me Uganda en ko ni manno chawani mi ogino binu tumala me Uganda binu gini pia to pekiti apol mwaki ke mwake mo karangete be bollo jo me mo ana chawani otike mo hayot ame pekiti chiantie chamo chana ti aduong adage ti ame mi ro pia dagere lo wakana me ko ni gin tien kopen weno mi ogin chalo party me National Unity Platform binu me katukan chikira gam become peki amedo tiano chano in Malamani. Back to you, Mr. President.
Yes,
we'll be talking matters of the plans that the party as National Unity Platform has in the next election.
The plans that we have, not just in the next election, because we are not only looking at an election.
Right.
We are young people who have a plan for Uganda that precedes even our own lives. We want to start afresh and build a new Uganda. We've always are in the struggle to put down the Museveni regime, but that's not the end as in itself. As a matter of fact, when we defeat this dictatorship, that will only be the beginning. We have been taught by our forefathers, who we were taught to hate in the first place, that our fight here is against poverty, ignorance, and disease. And indeed, that was Dr. Pote's mission, which we clearly see. Unfortunately, under Museveni, the problem of Uganda has been reduced to one thing: corruption. You see, as a human being, you can have 99 problems until you have a health problem, and then you have one problem. We had so many problems until we have the Museveni kind of corruption, and then we have one corruption, moral corruption, and everything corruption. As a matter of fact, I'll say it here when I'm on Lango FM, a voice of Lango,
yes,
that we are conditioned to hate past leaders. Even when we are moving on the roads that they constructed, we are taught to hate Amin. Even when we know how Pan-African he was. Of course, he had his mistakes, and I'm not justifying his mistakes. We were taught to hate the past regimes. We were taught to hate President Obote. For example, back in Uganda, that is the narrative that Museveni used. Like I just mentioned, he and his rebels would dress in UPC uniform and go kill our people to teach us to hate that. Even when we know that the hospitals and the roads and the schools that we went to were constructed by those leaders, Obote never drove people off their land. He never exhumed our elders to grab the land and all that. But that is what's happening today. Anyway, we want to point our focus to the future. We are trying to end this regime so that we build a new Uganda where everybody will be free before and under the law, where you come to a radio station and speak your truth and you don't expect to be taken away in a drone like it's happening today, where you know that the law is going to be, justice is going to be accessible for everybody. We want to fight against this poverty, the ignorance and disease. Poverty, we are not reinventing the wheel. It has been there. We had cooperatives that were established in the past governments, which were destroyed steadily and consistently by the Museveni regime. To see that now our cash crops have been destroyed. Coffee, cotton, tobacco, name it. And those that have persisted have been grabbed and taken, owned by family. The most recent victim crop is coffee, but this happened to cotton, it happened to tobacco, it happened to sugarcane in Busoga. So we want to fight back against that poverty by making sure people own back their income generating activities. Of course, we want to fight against ignorance, we want to improve education. Today, our education is terrible, as you can see. Our health care, needless to talk about it, Justice Muliagonja was in charge, a former Inspector General of government, crying foul. Here in Uganda, it has been told to us, and everybody has seen it, that everybody, no matter how rich or successful you are only one hospital bill away from brokenness. So we want to fix that. We want to fight corruption, because corruption is the cancer that has killed our country. This corruption is perpetuated and protected by Museveni himself, because most of the corrupt people are always traced to his doorstep. And he has come out in his own words to support that corruption. The corruption